Walking through any major city, there's so much going on. Today, I stopped in DuPont Circle, an area in downtown DC, where I wanted to spend some time in an art studio, learning a little bit more about art. We are at IANA at Hillier. It's a art gallery, and let's share with you a little bit about DC art. Let's take a look inside.
My name is Davidson, and I'm the co-curator of the Ties That Bind here at the International Art and Artists at Hillier. And this exhibition, The Ties That Bind, features 14 artists, one of which is Bria Edwards, who painted this beautiful portrait of her family members. Bria Edwards is an incredible painter. She usually portrays members of her family or her friends. I became familiar with her when her work was exhibited at the Phillips Collection here in DC, and I was immediately drawn to her work. And it's incredible what happens in about a year or two, because during that period of time, I came to know Bria and know more of her work. In fact, I even came to know the person whose portrait it was at the Phillips, who's also an artist. This particular portrait is a portrait of her cousins who live in Georgia, I believe, and they were here for the opening exhibition of the exhibition. And really, it's about seeing Black women in a way that we don't normally see us, especially in the arts. Unfortunately, figures like this don't frequent the walls of major museums, although things are getting better now. But to see them in a portrait that is so regal and in a space that is so regal, and the detail that was given to even the background of this piece on the stairwells and the door, the texture, it really puts these women in a state of opulence. And we want to really honor Black women in this manner. So these two women, they don't have a mask on, they don't try to cover their natural beauty. They have braids, they have colors in their hair, yet they are queens, and they're queens in this portrait.
This piece, I was immediately drawn to when I walked into the gallery space, and I see two women that I feel like I know. I feel like I've seen them before, I've hung out with them, they've raised me. I see two queens, two women who may have struggled at some point in their lives, but they take the time to see each other, to uplift each other, to present themselves as they want to be seen and understood. And if no one else understands them, they understand each other. So that resonates with me as a Black woman, as someone who often has to wear a mask when going out in the world, to come back home and feel like there's a safe space among friends, community. I see that in this piece.
Art is my passion, and I'm very lucky because I've managed to fulfill two passions in my life. I'm actually a doctor of veterinary medicine. I'm board certified in laboratory animal medicine, and I'm a director at the NIH. I have always had a passion for the arts. In college, I took art history courses, and I just never really knew how to make that into a career. But veterinary medicine was a passion of mine as well. Luckily, as I pursued my career in medicine, I became able to start my own personal art collection. And I've always wanted to pursue my art passion in a more formal way. And I have to say that some good things did come out of the COVID pandemic, because during that time, I finally said, I'm not doing anything but sitting at home and, working from home, so why not go back to school? I'm also serve as an officer in the United States Public Health Service, and so I had access to the GI Bill, and I could go back to school for free. Thank you, USPHS. So I'm currently a student at Johns Hopkins, working on my Master's of Museum Studies and a certificate in nonprofit management. And I really had time to think about all of the ideas that float around in my head about what I would build exhibitions around, and to do some of that research and to really start creating my business, which is called Museum Nectar Art Consultancy. I'm definitely very fortunate that I can live in both worlds, the science world and the arts world. It's definitely left and right brain, but my art curatorial work really feeds a different part of my brain, and it feeds a different part of my spirit, honestly. It is my honor to work with artists and to really help them along. I do a number of critiques of work. I have artist talks, and I'm able to provide feedback to artists who are trying to get a handle on what direction they want to go in. And like I said, it is really an honor for me to be that person. Some of my artist friends call me the art auntie, which I love, because it's not about me making a living off of this. Maybe one day I will, but because I do have my other career, this is truly about passion.
You said that you're a curator. Mm-hmm. What is a curator? What does that mean?
So there are many roles within the art stratosphere. A curator is generally the academic role, much in the way scientists research various things. Curators do research as well. And so you'll find that a lot of curators will have PhDs in the humanities. They may study gender politics. They may study African American history. But the way that they basically write their papers is through the organization of art around a topic. So they also write papers on the topic as it relates to art. Art, I like to say, is not only what you put on your wall, but it's having a conversation with the viewer. And that conversation is centralized around a certain topic. So here, in this exhibition, The Ties That Bind, we started with the concept of celebrating arts organization called Millennium Art Salon, which is a group of art collectors, curators, art appreciators here in the DC area. This nonprofit organization has been around for quite some time, for over 20 years, and they actually sponsored this exhibition. And the leaders of that organization, Mel and Juanita Hardy, they are longstanding, well-respected folks in the art community here in DC, particularly in the African American art space. So with that, they negotiated the use of this particular space, which is a beautiful gallery space here in Washington, DC, IA&A, or the International Art and Artists at the Hillier Contemporary Arts Center. And we wanted to bring a little bit of contemporary, future, emerging artists to Millennium. We wanted to introduce newer artists to their canon, their group of artists that they normally monitor and watch. And so with that, as a curator, and my co-curator is Jarvis Dubois, we started thinking about what Millennium Art Salon contributes to the DC community, and how they have managed to connect artists and collectors and people around African American art, and what are those ties that bind. And that's where the title came from. Then we started thinking about what other things tie our community together, and we started thinking about culture and familial ties and friendship, even our hair, all of these things that make African American and people of the diaspora unique. And that's kind of that was the brainchild of this. So there's an essay that I wrote that's on the wall there that kind of describes that process. And this first gallery speaks to culture and friends and family, with the second gallery speaking to more the spiritual side, and the fact that spiritualness and religion also connects us as a community. So we're going to talk about what makes a fine art print versus a print from your copier. So this is Imar Hutchins' work, and he is a master printmaker. And the way that he creates this is, first and foremost, some of his prints are replicas of his larger collage work, and he often collects old news articles, old pictures, old archival work about Black history, and he uses those items to create a collage. If he chooses to make a print from that, you won't see the actual newspaper articles and all that. But for instance, in this piece of Frederick Douglass, this red block was an Ebony magazine cover. And you could see the little clock. If you look at the Ebony, old Ebony magazines, the design is similar, but the words aren't there. For the Frederick Douglass, if you can imagine each color, which he has very carefully chosen and has created on a computer model of the piece, each color is one layer of paint. And what makes it different from if you were to copy it on your copying machine is that there is actually a device where it's a screen, like think of a screen door, the screen from the screen door, that he actually pushes paint through. And with each layer, he does each shape of the same color at one time. So in this piece, I can count at least 10 different colors. And so that means he goes through and does each layer one by pulling the paint through the screen onto the paper. And so that's also why he usually chooses one print per year to do, because it's so labor intensive, and he usually does a series of 100. When you're purchasing prints, whether it's a screen print or any other type of fine art print, always look at the number in the lower right-hand corner. This particular one is the first out of 100. And for appraising purposes, if you have an option to get a higher number, or a lower number, I should say, a 1 or a 2 or 3 versus a 99 or 100, always buy the lower number. It has more value if you ever would like to sell the piece in the future. Yeah, no.
That he printed them out.
Yeah.
So just to hear you explain that,
Yeah, so some of his work, some of his prints start as collage. And he does really big collage pieces. And he'll choose which pieces he wants to create a print from. So in this case, I think this started as a larger collage piece. So he does an interpretation of the collage.
Kristen Woollery. I am a DMV artist, so I live in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, but I am a Brooklyn girl, make no mistakes about that. I am a child of God. I am a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a former social worker and a current artist. I think that I've always had an artistic desire. I think I had artistic leanings, but as I mentioned before, depends on who raised you and how you were raised. And being a child of West Indian parents, the emphasis was placed on academics. My mother always encouraged, other things, hobbies, but they were just that, hobbies. And so I think I had to be very intentional as an adult in saying like, okay, this is something that I want to put time into and I want to develop this skill. And it was like clear to me after doing all the right things, completing undergrad, going to grad school, becoming a professional. And once I got out into the world of work, I was like, this can't be life. Also, I think it's important for others to know my cultural perspective so that they can better understand my art, maybe even identify with it. So there's that, to kind of build community around my artistic perspective. The pieces that I have at home here, this one here is Empress. Right behind me here is Aminata, Onyx, Beloved, Magnolia, and off to the corner, it's Untitled. But they're all female portraits to honor my mother, my community, the women who've raised me into my purpose, the people that I've loved, and obviously I am a woman, so it just makes sense for me and feels more natural for me to paint portraits of women. And hopefully I will be making more and more of even male figures to honor my son and my husband and other people who have loved on me in this process of growing into the artist that I'm becoming.
When we look at this picture here, I'm going to move this one to the side just a bit. What I see a female face. Mm-hmm. I see the hairline, the eyebrows, of course, the nose, the mouth, the neck. But what do you see, and what was your intention when painting this?
So my intention was just to make something that was visually interesting, but something that represented the women that I see every day. I'm a woman who, just going out in the world, I'm probably not seen. Yet I notice every Black woman that I, come in contact with or pass by. And I just remember being a little girl and always admiring the women or young women that I would see on the road, and they would have these big earrings and the nicest hairstyle, and yet I'm sure they were overlooked in so many different facets in their life. So I just wanted to paint her, whomever she is. in hopes that whoever she is out there in the world, sees herself in this painting. This painting, as I mentioned before, is beloved, and I wanted to paint something that symbolized the bond between mother and daughter, sisters, just relationship between Black woman to Black woman, this enduring bond connected by blood oftentimes. And so that's why there's the red background. But like I said, I just wanted to paint something that was about relationship and the beauty of being loved on, and as I've also said before, loved into your purpose, and just that. So when painting the features, really, it's not that deep for me. Like, I'm not thinking like, oh, it has to look so ethnic or Afrocentric. I'm painting me. I'm painting my mother. I'm painting my aunt. So by virtue of me painting people that I know and love, or women that I've seen and loved and seen myself in, obviously I'm going to paint them as I've seen them, and this is how I see them, as royal, regal, Black, beautiful women. I kind of started with this idea of the African mask. And then I was thinking about Black people across the diaspora who somehow land in the United States, and how we often have to put on a mask to go out and be successful, or just to get through our day. But in this case, I wanted to flip it so that the kind of my reimagining of the African mask was not so much to hide, but to reveal who we actually were, how beautiful, how strong, how vibrant we are.